Hey everybody, here we go. So today I'm going to focus on doing a build for GitHub Pages. And what is GitHub Pages? GitHub Pages is a way that you can actually host a website directly in GitHub. So in our previous episode, we actually covered GitHub and setting up SSH keys and getting your repo created and things like that. But for each repo that you create, you can actually create a project site. However, at the top level, you can have an entire website and it'll be whatever you want to call it. Mine obviously is startupsandcode.github.io, and I'm going to take you through that, show you what I did for my final site, and then we're going to actually do one for whatever repo you have. So I'm going to show the differences of doing a full domain and then doing the folder structure underneath it. And by doing it that way, you're going to realize that it is not as easy as I thought. I have spent literally about the past 2.5 hours figuring out, why does this not work? Why does that not work? And I'm going to take you through all the problems that I encountered, and then hopefully you'll be able to actually replicate the same solution that I came, and then you can customize it and do a bunch of different things. It's pretty cool. And it gets you really familiar with web development pretty quickly, and then we can actually expand on that as we move forward with like HTML, what is a template, what is markdown, and things like that. But right now, I'm literally just going to get you a base page set up, and then that'll be in your repo in your GitHub. So let's get started. All right. So obviously, this is my GitHub, and I'll show you my website that is hosted on GitHub right now. So if I do startupsandcode.github.io, this is actually all hosted on GitHub. And it's got a little menu over here. And this is actually using a system called Jekyll. As you can see, I did a lot of research on what I was going to load and how I'm going to solve these things. And you can see all of these challenges. But what Jekyll is a static site generator. And what is a static site? A static site is simply something that doesn't change, right? You can make changes in the repo, but it's not very interactive. It's not, it doesn't have a backend. So it's basically static HTML is what it generates. Makes it a lot faster, allows you to do caching and access through a CDN a lot faster and things like that. Great, and this is how you get started with Jekyll. So I am going to use one of my existing repos, and you can use the one you have. And we're going to go through it. So I'll use this one, UA extractor. So the first thing I'm going to do is clone this, right? So you probably have yours already locally, and I think I do too. Let me get into it. This is my startups and code github.io, but let's go to UA extraction. Great. So here's UA extraction. I have nothing installed here. If I show you my branches right now, whoops, that's it. I only have one branch. And I'm going to turn this into a website from a specific branch and not mess with my original code, and then show you how to do it yourself. So I'm going to follow some simple steps. Gem install bundler, Gendel, my new awesome site, CD awesome site. See all that? It's a little overkill, right? You do need this. So you will need Ruby installed. If you don't have Ruby installed, I will show you. Install Ruby Mac, right? And here you go. The easiest way to do it, I would recommend, is brew install Ruby. This is how I would install it. I think this is actually how I installed it. If I do which Ruby, yeah. So I installed it using Homebrew. And it literally is brew install Ruby, and that will do it. All right, so now that I have Ruby installed, and hopefully you do too, The next part is to do the gem install bundler in Jekyll, which I've already done, but sorry, gem install, right? Bundler Jekyll. Ta-da, to install. Great. So now that I have that installed, this actually recommends doing Jekyll new, my awesome site, et cetera, right? And what that'll do is create a new website for you. However, since I'm already in my repo, that is not how you want to do it, because you want to actually do it from your current directory, right? But before you do that, don't mess with your main. If you mess with your main, everything will be a mess. So let's create a new branch. So git branch, git checkout -b to create a new branch on this checkout. And I will call it GH pages for GitHub pages. That's just me calling it something. Great. So now I'm in a new branch called git checkout, called GitHub pages. And you can see that right down here. I am officially on GitHub pages. All right, let's clear that. And now what I want to do is create a new Jekyll site exactly where I am. And to do that is this. And I'm going to explain all of these commands. So Jekyll new, it's kind of straightforward. It uses Jekyll, creates a new site. I am skipping the bundle right now. Not sure why. It works out. And the reason I'm doing the -force is because it will warn me, you already have something in this directory. Are you sure you want to do this? And the answer is yes, I do. So I'm going to do this. And now you'll see a bunch of new files that got created. Post file, config, HTML, some markdown, et cetera, which is great. But it's also in this branch. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this locally exactly as it is without me changing anything. So bundle install, bundle exec Jekyll serve. Great. So now we have this website. Okay, so now I have that website. Let me bring that back up, right? And it's running right here. And just to show you some fun things you can do, this is the layout home. The file that really matters for Jekyll is this. So right now I have your awesome title. I am going to call this UA extraction because that's the name of the repo that I'm doing this in. So when I come here and I rebuild and I refresh, UA extraction, UA extraction, UA extraction. And it changes all of these things. So I'm going to keep it that simple right now, and I'm going to show you some things that really suck. And then I figured out how to get around them. So when you do a Jekyll, it's going to give you a default theme, and it's called this, right? Minima, I guess is how it's pronounced, which is great. And it looks like this, as you saw. And we're going to build additional pages, but we want to actually get this running on our GitHub site, right? So watch what happens. This is really annoying. So now that I've created a new branch on GitHub, it doesn't have that new branch yet. I only have this branch right here, right? So because of that, I need to push this branch, right? So let's add all of those files. Git add, git commit -m, added new branch and files for GitHub pages. Great. Created all of that. And then I need to push it. Git push remember, we have to specify the upstream because it doesn't exist yet. So git push origin space, and I call it GitHub pages. Great. So now if I come back to here and I refresh, I have two branches now, in my main branch and my GitHub branch. Now let's see how to get this working as a website on my GitHub pages. So from this existing repo, you can go to settings. And then over here, you're going to see pages. And that is great. And what I'm going to do is deploy from a branch. And it actually selected that automatically. That's kind of cool. And root. So you would select the branch, whatever your branch is. And that would be about it. But then you want to see, where is that hosted? How do I see it? Things like that. Well, I'm going to come back here. And I went to actions. And under actions, as you can see, I've been doing this a while. I will go to pages and deployment. And it will actually do the full build here, set up the job, build everything with Jekyll. And let's go back to it. So if I do pages and deployment, it will actually give me a link down here when it finishes the deploy. So I'm going to click on that, and you will see the website. But wow, does that look ugly, right? So what's missing? Obviously the styles, right? So it's not loading all the style sheets, even though I pushed exactly what we saw here to here. Here's the problem with that. When you build locally, Jekyll actually serves things up from your own local directories. And I'm going to show you how to find that and then actually move that over to your website, delete the theme, and then you'll have that actual theme as part of the build process. And that is actually really critical, and that took me a little bit to go, why is this not working? And there's some magic behind things, and I don't like magic. I like understanding what it is. So you see this theme here, right? So let's figure out where that theme is. And to do that, you do bundle info and the name of the theme, right? And it tells me the full path of where that is. So it's like, all right, let me open that. So by going to that, you'll see the includes, the layouts, the stats, and the assets. And I was like, oh, interesting. Why are these not part of this? And they should be. So what's really cool about VS Code is I can copy that, and I can come over here and paste. So now I have a layouts page, a post page, a SAS page, the CSS that's used for that theme. So basically all I did was copy over the minimum theme that was hosted in my server in that random location, and brought it over to the actual repo that I'm working in, right? And then I come back and this is now working, right? Which is great, but let's do a full version of this on the actual server. So now we're going to push what we just copied over to that repo. Oh, but wait, that won't work yet either because I'm in a repo. So in your configuration, you're going to see a base URL and a URL here. And even it does explain what it's supposed to be, subpath, and your host name. So my base URL, if you come back to the broken one, is UA extraction, right? So I'm going to copy that, and I will paste that here. Do not forget the slash. It's really important. And then my base URL is https startupsandcode.github.io. Great. And now, if I do Jekyll serve, and it still works, and you notice that it has that path now. So that's even better. So now let's see if I deploy it. And to deploy it is just to push to that remote repo. So git status. So as you can see, it's going to add all of these new directories, which was that theme that I copied over. And then in addition to that, it's going to update this. So this base URL and this URL will get updated. So let's do that. Git add, git commit updated for theme, and git push. And now if I come to actions, it's building. And you can actually watch this build process. It'll download everything from GitHub, from this repo here, right? This is one of the repos that GitHub uses to build things. And there's the Jekyll build, goes pretty fast actually. And now it's going to report the status, and then it's going to deploy. So I come back to here, and I wait for the deploy to show. Waiting for it. Ta-da, 7 seconds, not bad. And now, if I refresh, ta-da, the themes and the style and everything else got applied. And you can see that the name is now UA extraction. And it's pulling it right from here. So if I go into my index and I add, let's just add an H2 here and go hello world, H2, and I run it locally, which we all know how to do, bundle exec Jekyll serve. Great. And there's my hello world on this page, right? And you're like, well, where's this post coming from and this date and things like that, right? So this is using layout home. So if I go into layout and I go to home, you will actually see all of this right here. If the posts are greater than this, it will actually show you the posts. And you see the subscribe right here. That is tied into this. Here's your post. So if I want to change the word post, let's find out where that is. Site post, post list, list heading, default post. So if I change this to post 2 and I refresh, you can see post 2. So you got to understand the hierarchy and the way everything gets pulled in. So we start with the actual index page right down here, right? And this is using a layout home. So that means in the directory of layout, there's going to be a home. And then in here, this is actually using the layout of default. So then I'll go to default. And this is actually including a head.html. So this is part of the includes, which is in here. And there's your SEO, and there's the assets, and things like that. And then there's the header, and the site title, and there's a footer, and all of that. And all of these variables and parameters we're going to go through in the next episode, and how I cover change the styling, and then change CSS. And all the CSS is actually currently right here. And we'll be able to change all of that together. It shouldn't be that big of a deal when we get there. There's so much you can do with CSS. And as you can see, CSS is importing things. So from here, we've imported home. From home, it imported default. From default, it actually imported CSS. But all of that process hierarchy needs to actually get pulled together so you can actually do that. All right, so now that I've done this and I've updated this, and if you want to get this, let's push the hello world just so you can see that change. So if I come to the website, right now there's nothing up here, right? And I'm going to push my hello world to the website. So to do that, just get status. Great. We have an index markdown. We have a change. And I can actually see what that change is right here. And all I did was add the hello world, right? Git add, git commit, updated, hello world, and git push. Ta-da. And if I do actions, it will immediately kick off a build because over here, remember, I specified in the pages to say deploy from any time I push to this branch. All right, let's go back to the actions. And here we go. So this will actually do a full build, and then after it does this build, it will report the build status and then deploy. Build is complete, reporting the status. And that is now complete, and now it's going to deploy. And that will get deployed here. And please wait for it to deploy, because otherwise you'll be like, I made my changes, I pushed, nothing changed. All right, so now that I'm here and I refresh, and there's my hello world. And that's the goal for the day. So we've set up a simple website on GitHub using GitHub Pages with an automated build process, which is great. And I created a new branch specifically for GitHub Pages with all of this code right here. And I've migrated the style that is the default for Jekyll that is hosted on my local server, but was not hosted in the push. So by bringing all that together and copying over those folders into the version I'm using, includes layouts, posts, assets. It was able to do all of that simply. So now I can actually do real changes locally, and I won't care where it's actually hosted because it'll be part of the build process. Covered a lot today in a short amount of time, but I am pretty excited about what we've done. That's about it for today. I will go into more of the things you can do with Jekyll and more things you can do with GitHub, and then we'll get into more HTML and web styling. Maybe deal with some Python as we move forward, but thanks for tuning in, and please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll